And this is new to me, not only organizing things, but on my own computer, which isn't too big of a deal, but then um, trying to make sure I remember, like, oh, I'm not screen sharing, or oh, the camera's over here. So it'll take a couple of sessions to get back into the swing of how I'm doing this. There's my window. How about I do a screen share? Cool. So, yeah, as I said, I'm going to see if you guys think um, these look choppy or not. So I don't mean to like ruin the unveil for anybody, but I just want to see if you guys see this as choppy or not. Do I have another video? I have like home videos. My cousin's birthday was recently. Let's play this one. Let's see. See if you guys think this is choppy or smooth. Oh yeah, that's super choppy, isn't it? I can see it on my other computer. It's stuttering around. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, very choppy. So, um, how about I don't know, while I review stuff, I think we should take ample time to check these out because you guys spend a lot of time on them. We'll check them out together, maybe if you guys download them. There's only like what 5 projects, so it should only take a couple minutes to download. So again, it says final, right? I know this is Joe, and it looks like also Rob. Yeah, so if you get them downloaded, then we'll kind of go one by one. I'll just wait a minute. So if you guys want to just like maybe, since nobody's talking, at least throw a text chat in there, like done or something when you downloaded them. Sort by date modified, date created. Get rid of this. Yeah, so after these, we'll start getting into what we're working on this week. And it won't take that long to cover things. A lot of it's pretty straightforward. And some good news and bad news with that. So we'll get into that shortly. Finished products, here we go. Oh, we have 2 options. Whoa. Just gonna put all these here for right now. Group project final. Who else is in here, Miriam? Hunter. So whoever has to review this video later is going to be like super bored. Just like you all probably right now. Preview, be fine, yeah. Oh yeah, I think MOB is fine. So Kat says she's got them downloaded. Yeah, if you guys have got these downloaded, just so I'm not waiting endlessly. I mean, I'm still tweaking stuff, but just put in the chat, right? So if you missed that, it's a little text bubble at the bottom. Make sure you say like you're done or something. Full version is not our file. Okay. Is this it? Oh, full version. I see. Okay. So Ishween, Elijah, and Sue's is the one that has all their names in it that says final. And I guess I never brought up this naming thing because in class I just download and plan like everybody's there, and I could be like, oh, who's this if I, if it's not evident. So I guess just trying to get through this new learning curve that we all have. Primarily my learning curve, I suppose. Did I already got these? Nate and Sean, group project, which I downloaded twice apparently. Strange. Okay, I think it's just 5 then, right? Yeah. All good, done. Okay, sweet. So why don't we just start? Also, why don't we try? Sorry, it's hard for me to stay with one logical thought speaking because I'm trying to also navigate differently. Apparently in my screen sharing mode, everything gets moved around. So, okay, here's participants. So if you guys wouldn't mind, as long as you don't have like loud music playing or screaming baby next to you or something, why doesn't everybody unmute your microphone so we could have more of like a group dialogue, and then kind of we could chat through things as long as nobody has crazy background noise. And also, you guys will want to make sure you turn your volume down so we don't get feedback as well. The one thing I also noticed, maybe I'll show you guys on my screen. If you go to System Preferences on your machine, if you have a Mac, if you have a PC, it'll be a different location. I don't even know where it would be on a PC anymore. Under Sound Preferences, like I had to turn my microphone down just because like apparently it's super, the pickup is a super high, like more high fidelity range. So I was literally in my other room, like, 15 feet over, and I was snapping my fingers and it was coming through the feed like super clear. So that's something you might want to turn down too. If we'll find out if it's too loud. So yeah, if you guys want to just make sure you have your mic off so we can have a dialogue. Why don't we go top down here? So we'll start with Ishween, Elijah, and Suze. Why don't we check that out, and then let's have a little bit of a chat with that. And I'm going to shrink it a bit. Oh, it's funny that you guys can see the whole thing. I have other stuff on my screen you guys can't see. All right. This doesn't look like, oh, there. Nice. All right, I'm gonna play it again. smoother. Nice. What do you guys think?
That was funny.
Yeah, it's a little hard to translate some of what he's doing, I think, because like like his arms are combining with his shirt, you know? So for some of like the contortions that he's doing when he's taking off his headset, it's a little, I think maybe it doesn't translate as smoothly as it could just because of that simple, maybe like just switching the foreground arms to a different color or whatever. But yeah, I think what really helps it too is at the end where he just like puts his arms up. How about anybody else? Be good to get a couple comments for each of these. Have you guys ever watched? Well, obviously you've watched old cartoons, but have you ever picked up that a lot of those older cartoons, anything that's gonna move, that's like static and then it's gonna move, has a different color. It's like usually like a lighter color, so you can almost predict what things are gonna be activated. It's kind of like this door, not really, just because the door is like a lighter purple. But it almost gives that like effect of like, oh, that's gonna move. But this stuff also, almost looks like it kind of move. Who plays Minecraft again on a stool? Is that a stool? Man, this kid is dedicated. Oh, there it goes. Man, that's a creepy looking stool. Let's see if we get a clear shot right there. It almost looks like a spine stool or some creepy looking contraption. I guess the only thing that, let's see. Oh, some stuff here. Oh, I didn't realize you guys are saying stuff in the chat. I gotta get up with that. The chair was strange, yeah. Oh, the chair moved? Can I move this thing? Yeah, great. Oh, I see. I don't know. How did I not even catch that? Oh yeah, it looked like two things overlaying. I'm kind of curious, like, if this was something two different people worked on, and then like the overlapping was a little bit messed up because of the two different people. You know what I mean? Like syncing up layers. Yeah, matching up. Yeah. Yeah. Um, cool. Yeah, it seems a little. The only thing that throws me is um, like the rooms seem a little bit strange. Like this first scene with the door, I think it works really well because it almost lets you. It's like, oh, this is like an elf workshop kind of vibe, right? Because like who has that kind of a door? But then when we go over here, um, this table on the left, your mind is like when you think about it, if you stop and look at it, you're like, oh, isn't that the table from the previous scene? But it's also two different characters, right? So it's kind of, I guess the one little trick here, not that this has to be perfect, right? It's just a silly little meme. But the one thing to be thinking about if you're doing this kind of stuff in the future, I guess, is like the context of how these things are laid out. Sorry, I'm like trying to stop and read because you guys are not using your microphones. The one thing is like, oh, where is he looking? Is he looking straight ahead? He's looking to the right, that sort of mapping. Because it almost seems like he's in front of the elf, which would then mean like the TV would be on this wall. But it's not a huge deal. It's just kind of the only reason I bring it out is like because this back wall right here just seems a little not like a real room. You know, if it had like a corner or something, I think I wouldn't even be thinking about it at all. But just because it matches the same wall color and it's almost the same, you know, the same angle of the floor right here going across. So, but yeah, great. Did I miss any other comments? I'm sure you guys are like reading comments as I go as well. So yeah, I'm gonna try my best to like while we're like reviewing these, I'm just gonna try to pay attention to what I'm looking at, as well as whoever wants to chime in with their microphone, so that I'm not like I have to go back and read a bunch of things. Like if you guys have a comment on the video, I'll let each other, you know, read those comments. I think that makes sense. So we'll do Joe's and Rob's. All right. Nice. Oh man. I think the hard twist is pretty epic. The one bummer that I went like my mind was at was like, oh no, is that song. I'm sure you all know the name better than me, but it's pretty iconic, right? And we see this kind of meme all the time. So to cut the audio of that sound off is kind of a bummer. So it could even be like, you know, if you're gonna use this, which I think you should, you know, you guys should be considering using these for a portfolio if you need some animation stuff in there, because you could always tweak this stuff, right, to polish it off. The one thing I would say is you probably want to just add a couple more frames where he just shrinks and goes real small, right, like disappears, but then keep playing that audio out and maybe just keep flashing the background. Like you want to hear a full cycle of, I would think you would want to hear at least a full cycle of that, what do you call it? Oh, why is this not going back and playing? Yeah, so it's only like a second and a half long or something like that. Tripping on mushrooms, yeah. That's what Patrick's always doing. Doesn't everybody know? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be mushrooms. It's just like what they did, I guess. Yeah, so it is. I guess it is a little confusing to hear to think about. Um, I don't know if this is. I don't know if this is something that's a problem with the content of what you guys got. Like the video content that you started with. This doesn't look too blurry, but it obviously is blurry. It's just because content is in the far background. But then this looks much cleaner. So I guess the blend in is a little harsh, which I mean that's going to be fair. I mean it's going to happen pretty much anytime you transition from like one type of animation to another. But this is the one that really is jarring. Is when we go from like semi-clear to the house that is blurry. So that's why I'm just kind of curious of like, was it just the source content that was blurry, or did it get compressed weird or something? You know? Yeah, let's see the. Yeah, this is a cool mix of rotoscoping and video. Yeah. See right here, that is definitely clear, um, like on the handheld. It's definitely clear video in the background. So I think it's see it kind of like goes from fuzzy to clear. It works fine enough. I'm just kind of curious. Maybe the source feed wasn't like high as resolution as it could have been or something. But again, like how do you get exactly what content you need? Oh, and you know what else we were talking about? Let me play this through again. I think we were talking about originally like having different sound effects from like um, oh, somebody mentioned having when somebody swears in SpongeBob, they have like a weird sound effect, right? Like they play like a foghorn or something. Um, I was thinking maybe they were gonna play that into it, but no, I think this is pretty great. Dead. Yeah, at first I was like, I couldn't remember. I'm like, what is this dead? Oh yeah. So if you guys pay attention just to that transitional moment here, I think they do a really good job at transitioning the audio. Because like the first time I watched it, I was a little confused, but then my confusion went away immediately, and now I'm trying to like break down why my confusion went away immediately. And they turned his audio down while starting to play back Patrick's over top when they pulled out. So I think that worked really well. Sweet. Yeah, source content was low res, yeah. Yeah, so that's just one thing you want to try to do, because obviously, as you guys know, like this takes a decent amount of time to build out. Um, so yeah, going forward, it's always trying to like design, right? If you're doing something for like a poster or something, or you always want to make sure you know what the output's going to be. Um, so like if I played this back really in a really small window, this is all going to look pretty much fine. But as soon as we start playing it back on like an HD TV or something, it gets obviously blurry. So it might be a matter of like, oh, what what if you can't find the full resolution of a specific video online, maybe you find out like, oh, what season was that, what movie was that, and then just buy it. Like I'm sure if you bought SpongeBob season whatever used on eBay, it'd be like $3 or something, you know. So just things to be thinking about. All right, let's hop into Cat Cody and Miriam's. I'm assuming a lot of you probably have looked at all of these already, but I'm hoping we're just going one at a time. Nice. I like. Nice. I'm gonna scrub it, let it go one more time. Nice. I think it's really interesting right here where it transitions from one animation to another. I think it worked really well how you use the same like background, you know, like the tiled green. So that worked well. But I think it almost works in your favor how it starts out more of this like lower res, you know, you can see kind of like a reflection, but not really. His details aren't really well. But it's almost like you're building up to more dramatic with the detail, you know? Almost like bloodshot eyes. They're not, but they have like streaks in them. A little twisty twist. Um, yeah, I guess the only thing that you might want to be adding to this, again, this isn't stuff you're like, oh, go do right now, but again, thinking about potential, you know, portfolio use, um, group stuff in portfolios is fine, especially animation. Um, One thing you might want to be thinking about is just adding in a really subtle, quiet background audio for like a theater, you know, vibe, and then even like a bathroom can have like a weird tone to it, like you know, when you walk into an empty bathroom, a lot of in a restroom in different places, it often has like like echo effects off the walls from small things. Because that was the only thing that threw me on this entire meme here was like how the audio was only in specific spots. So if you had background audio that was there, you wouldn't be thinking about like obviously you want the dramatic effect, but there still could be a very subtle undertone to it, I think. But yeah, oh, yeah, that mirror was pretty awesome right here. Yeah. Nice. I love how he's just like staring, his eyes are open. Sweet dudes. The bad guy. Awesome. Let's do the next one here. Nate, Nick, and Sean is one with the worm dude starting off. I'm also going to scale this down a bit just because I can't see the whole thing on my screen.
You see that move? No!
Why are they freaking out so much? Ah, it's hilarious just how calm the dancer is and how that's pretty good. Is there like a name for this particular meme?
It's just like a really old sketch comedy video from a YouTube channel that I used to watch. The video is just called "Pump It Up, Burn It Up Dance Contest."
I'll have to write that down. Pump it up, burn it up, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, another thing to note real quick, I'll get back into talking about this, but what I don't know if you guys noticed, I posted like the first group project stuff on my Instagram and I tagged you guys. Just trying to get more people to check it out. I also sent it to our department to share, but they've been going through a ton of stuff, so I don't know if they are getting to it. But I'm also hoping to post these on there as well, now that there's audio. And I've been tagging everybody. So if you guys have Instagram or you've been wanting to Instagram, whatever, and you haven't sent me your tag, your username, why don't you shoot me an email now while you're thinking about it. And then I'll make sure I'll tag you guys. That way everybody kind of gets credit for who did what. All right, cool. Let's break this down a little bit. The one thing I was confused with right here is how this got broken up. You see like this like glitchiness. It seems a little strange.
When I'm playing it back on my computer, I'm not getting that, so I don't know what's happening on your end.
Right. Oh, and plus this is let's see, this is MP4. Let's try to open it with VLC. Sure. Oh, yeah, see? Yeah, I'm just kind of... I haven't noticed that before, or like with any of our stuff that we've done so far, so just... It threw me. I'm like, oh, well, I wonder what that... Oh, now I think it's gone. I seen it in the playback for a second, though. Yeah. Can I scrub with... No, I can't. I don't know VLC well anymore. To go like frame by frame. I don't know. Probably just some kind of like codec issue, like exporting, or what I'm seeing. But anyway, we won't dwell on that. Where'd my audio go? That's strange. Oh, I think I had a system preference thing. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll just open it back up. Play it one more time. Whoa! Now it's super fast.
Burn it up, yeah! Oh, you see that move? No! No, no, no! No! No!
The effect is still there. The one thing that would have been helpful is making sure that we're maintaining the colors. You know, it's not even as important for these guys, but even throwing in a different background color, you know, that would have taken only a hot second, would have let them stand out easier, so it's not as jarring. But especially this character, having it be the same, you know, the same browns and green or whatever within the character, even if it doesn't match perfectly, if we're just using the same colors, it would allow us to, you know, more at a glance not even question it. It's like, oh, that is the character we just seen. So that could have been a big help. For a second, I thought his hand right here was like part, or like it was being cut by his waistline, but it just so happens that it overlaps perfectly at 1 second. Let's see, what does anybody think? Yeah, audio is great. Yeah, this expression is pretty hilarious. So this is a pretty good what do you want to call it? Pretty good example of like when something cuts off at the end, it works, right? Because the meme, that's the style of the meme. Like he screams and then it just drops off. But whereas the other one that we were talking about, where Patrick's on mushrooms, dancing moves are pretty smooth. Yeah, I think things paired well. It is just a little jarring going from like one. That's how these were gonna be. If like let's face it, different effects, but I think a little bit more collaboration on, stripping things down and making sure we're getting certain things the same. Like the previous one we looked at was like the background in the bathroom had the same, the same photo. So that kind of simple stuff, like collaborating on prior to, could help stitch things together well. Sweet. So we just have one more. Jackson and Vivian. Oh man, this looks like they rotoscoped the hell out of this thing. Let's check it out. Play of the game, Thanos as the Mad. Play of the game, Thanos? What do you guys think? Oh, my comments are popping up at the top. Yeah, line list. It took me a second to realize, like, think back of like what was going on here. So we have like the video game overlay of like the HUD. I haven't played Overwatch though. Is this I'm assuming this kind of pop up here eliminated as part of the game as well. So maybe that's why it didn't click immediately with me. Kill feed, yeah. The one thing that seems, okay, so I guess this comment is coming from me as being, not familiar with the game. I'm familiar with the movie, Avengers, obviously. So this is making sense to me. It was a little confusing, like the name, I guess, but it makes sense now. This is starting to make sense, right? But then when we transition here, it kind of makes sense, like, oh, going all white, like everybody died. And I'm assuming the kill feed is white. But then switching to a black black title overlay, I guess it makes sense. It's probably what they have for the game too. Just for like repurposing it, it seems like a weird shift to go from like this background color to white and then to black. Not sure if it could have been done a different way, but I guess what I'm getting at is reference play. Yeah, I mean, if you want to upload it to the drive folder, that would be cool. With the same folder. Yeah, I mean, the rotoscoping is on point for this stuff. I guess this is something that you know, comes up with any of these projects, is like, how do we transition them well? You know, how do we stitch these things together? So that's the one big thing that I kind of preemptively thought about talking to you guys about is, you know, and I'm not giving you this feedback as like for you guys to be defensive about. It's really more of constructive. So thinking about that in a constructive way, I guess it's, you know, when you're collaborating with people, obviously there's a lot more that you can't control. So you have to start to, through this type of experience, you have to start thinking about more of a project from like start to finish and the different things that could come up. And obviously, as you work in a medium, you're going to find more and more things that come up. But yeah, definitely, you know, stylistic choices or backgrounds, you know, color palettes, all that kind of stuff makes sense. So even like, I know this is probably like directly from the game, so you probably just took the colors and all of that. But perhaps you could have, you know, changed it to be these colors at the end. And, you know, that could have been a more of a layered process of getting, you know, replacing all those colors in the video or whatever to get the more accurate change. But just thoughts, I guess. I like Sue's comment. Very aesthetic. Is this scene right here like he's dancing with his finger up? I can't quite tell from here, I guess. Like he's grabbing his belt, like he's doing some cowboy kicks. Take the L, yeah. I'm like an old person all of a sudden, you know? Like you leave undergrad for like 5 years and all of a sudden everything is too cool for me. Okay, sweet. Well done, people. Looks like I got some awesome wet drying hair. So today, let's dive in to some of the stuff today. PogChamp. So I had to do some last minute changing of what we're doing this week. So I'm hoping, and maybe I should just pull up that real quick. I'm assuming everybody looked at the new syllabus I did, but I'm just going to pull it up real quick, give us quick highlights. I think I changed this a couple more times since I sent it to you. for a couple of different reasons. So the big thing I wanted to just talk about real briefly was office hours. The way I'm hoping to do those is like starting with a phone call, or if you want to meet with me within like a day or two in advance, or ahead of time, you could always just send me an email and like still kind of plan with me what time you want to chat. That way I can still put it on my schedule like I've done in the past. And then if other people are like, hey, can we meet at 5 o'clock or whatever, 5:15, then I'm not already with somebody else. So I'm just trying to keep planning things so that my office hours are I guess more contained, so I'm not like any time of the day, any day, having to stop what I'm doing to come do office hour stuff. So I can definitely still do emails, but in terms of if you guys have questions on projects, or questions with grades, need help with tools or something like that, we can definitely do screen sharing. And during class time, like a little bit later here today, or next class, I'm hoping we'll just have like mainly work session. As you guys have problems or something, if you need to screen share, we could do that. But what else? So there's no word on the labs yet. Probably seems like, I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with news as much as me, but seems like the world has gone to shit, and we're all just in hibernation mode now, which is pretty crazy. And I guess we should have seen it coming, but everybody was, I guess, ignorant to the fact until it got here. So we're at where we're at. Big thing for you guys is I want to make sure you all are still upholding saving things in multiple locations. So even though you're on your own computer and like, oh yeah, I don't have to bring it with me, still get into that habit. Like for instance, when I do grades and I save all of my grades to an Excel file, Microsoft Excel, I'll also upload that to the Google Drive, just so if my computer, shits the bed all of a sudden for no reason, I'll still have it online, right? So I don't lose all of your guys' information. So it's good to make sure you're doing that, because if you lose something, that's going to be, it should be on you for not keeping up. So the only other thing on here was the breakdown of our grades. So I sent you guys the one originally the other day. It had 8 weekly assignments. I forgot. Ishween is hopefully going to be delivering some stuff to us next week, and that'll be like a weekly assignment. I'll generate like an assignment from that. So I added another one, and I had to go through and change the percentages. So I just want to make sure I told you guys that has changed. And for today, the game plan was to do facial tracking with Adobe Character Animator. So the problem with that I ran into a couple days ago is, I've watched all my training videos I needed to. I knew exactly what I wanted to do for this. Shouldn't take a long time to show you guys how it works. And I've put, let me close this. I put on our schedule even a link for you guys to like watch a, later today in class here in a few minutes, you could watch this if you wanted to, of seeing how Adobe Animator works. So just a step backward, I guess. I can't do this kind of demo with you guys because I literally can't. My compute, I didn't know this beforehand. Like, how would I be able to plan for this? Other than doing this, like over winter break or something, preemptively. But Adobe Character Animator, you can't use it with an external webcam. You have to use a computer camera that's like in your machine. So my computer here is literally just like, you know, a television screen. I did have to go to Walmart, masked up and everything, went to Walmart and got one, brought it back. It works with my computer, but it does not work with Adobe Animator, Character Animator. So there's no way for me to walk you guys through a tutorial. There's no way for me to walk you guys through when you run into problems. Even my MacBook right here has a webcam on it. You're like, oh, well, just use that. Give you my spec here. My MacBook is a mid-2009 running OS X 1010, which is Yosemite. So therefore, I cannot install Adobe CC on my MacBook. So that being said, I'm really bummed out that we aren't getting into a second program. Ishween is going to hopefully be delivering stuff for us to get us into like web, you know, like introduction to kind of web. So that'll be something different. But for our purposes, I was hoping to get into After Effects or at least this other Adobe Character Animator. So I'm still allowing you guys to try that if you wanted to for this week's assignment. Just giving you that forewarning that I can only really help you with it via like speculation, you know? Like I could still do office hours, I could talk you through things, we could try to figure it out together. It isn't that complicated. Primarily, if I could just give you guys a quick screenshot as an example from this video.
By clicking the
they have example files in here that literally you just open an example file and you could start, you know, it'll start tracking your face just with that example file. Then you could take that example file and start editing it in Photoshop or Illustrator, editing the different components and then changing. So basically like you're editing the symbols. So you're not like building this thing from the ground up necessarily. Then you would go back in and tweak different parameters for those different effects. So he gets into it later in the video. I think it's this video. It might not be this video. Whoever this guy is, he has several videos for Character Animator. Yeah. So the eyebrows literally have a whole dialogue and like how drastic of the rotation do you want them to be, how high do you want them to be, how low. So you could set all those kinds of things. So depending on what you would want your character to be doing. So I guess going back into like what we are going to be doing, I figured I'd give you guys, so at least since I'm, you know, having to change things last minute, if we were still in school, I'd totally be able to do this. So it's not something that I was really foreseeing as a problem. On our main page, on our assignments here, I posted assignment 7, even though we had spring break, whatever, it's still our 7th assignment. I'm giving you guys 2 options for this, so if you guys want to go there and kind of you can start to read this. Essentially, I want to give you guys the ability. So option 2 is still, if you do have a built-in camera and you do want to try to do Adobe Animate, Character Animator, I mean, the names are very similar. If you want to do Character Animator, you totally can still. I think you guys should. It's a fairly new software, and being able to utilize that and build it in to, you know, even if you wanted to freelance and make an animation for somebody for their YouTube channel, for like an advertisement that they could share to different websites, for a business, right? Anything. It's still something I think you guys should probably try. But again, if you know you're not super savvy on picking things up without a lot of instruction, it might be good to just kind of default back to the first option here. The first option is, this is what we were going to do week 7 if I wasn't ill, if I was in class. This is what we were going to do anyways. So kind of picking up where we left off. Essentially, what we're going to do either way is adding a new scene. So as you can see down here in requirements, there looks like there's a lot of requirements, but I mean, you guys will blow most of this stuff out of the water since you're more versed now in the program. So it's not something to be daunted with or anything. A new scene, we're going to cover that today, if you guys haven't done that already. A scene for Animate is literally just kind of like a new layer, except it'll also contain a whole new animation. So you could basically be copying components and pasting them over, or recycling your symbols that you did for week 7 and bring them over. So yeah, we're basically going to be harvesting the stuff you did in weeks 5 and 6, and then basically using this week as a way to polish. Did somebody have a question? I thought somebody said something. This will basically be like polishing the project. Not that you guys need to go back in and drastically change a lot of stuff that you've already done. I don't want you to worry about that necessarily. But the big thing I'm trying to get you guys to be thinking about is this is almost like a midterm project, right? Building on it over different weeks. So this is another thing that you really should be, I guess, thinking about, like, oh, could I be using this for my portfolio? And it's all about the work you put into it, right? So the only thing that I would recommend is if your harmonies, your color harmonies were a bit, kind of all over the place, maybe just revisit that and simplify a couple colors so that you're, it's more cohesively contained into the same color palette. That would be the only thing I would be suggesting that you have to make sure you change. But there's a couple other people, like maybe things fell on the ground, and instead of it just being like a character turning, maybe you have a little bit of squash in there or something simple. I wouldn't worry about that stuff too much. The main point here is we're just like adding a new scene. So with the new scene, we're just going to be focusing on, like if we're doing option 1 here, we're just going to be focusing on creating this foreground, middle ground, background. So this is going to be super open for you guys to decide how you want to build it based on your interaction that you already have. And then, do you want to build some like another scene before your obstacle or after your obstacle? That's totally up to you. As well as, like your character, you basically can copy that symbol and bring it into your new scene. And your character could be a middle ground, or your character could be the foreground. That's up to you. You just kind of label the layer as such, making sure you have each of these 3 components on at least 3 different layers. What else did I want to say? So the way to be thinking about this usually, let's see if I put it down here. Yep, in one of the requirements here, if you're doing the option 1, at least 2 of these layers should be moving, right? So traditionally, you have like the far background, like mountains or something. I guess this way would be static, right? Like behind me, my room is static, and I'm kind of moving right now, right? But then maybe I'd have like something in the foreground that's also moving. So my body would be in the middle ground, so your character, right? That's pretty much traditionally like what you would see, but it doesn't have to be that way. You could have your characters kind of standing still and for dramatic effect and be like looking, freaking out or whatever, you know, whatever the character's doing, I guess. Yeah, I mean, most of you had a character sideways, I guess, so, you know, it doesn't matter. But what I'm getting at is the background could be moving and the middle ground could be moving and your character could kind of like be standing there and like blinking or like moving its arm or, you know, whatever. So we're basically taking the theme, using similar colors, building out a background and middle ground, and kind of just extending our animation. I don't think I put, did I even put a time? I didn't put a time on here yet. Maybe I'll have to like think about that in more depth. I forgot to mention like how long it should be. But yeah, essentially if you do the full tracking, which I don't foresee a lot of you trying because you do have to do it on your own and it'd be tricky to learn, I guess, on your own, other than you can still ask me for help, but it really shouldn't be that complicated. It could take even less time than the foreground, middle ground, background option. If you do the facial tracking, it's more or less like you're just going to be speaking, right? And you're going to have whatever dialogue, you know, some kind of short, few second long dialogue that your character is going to say something. And that'll tie into that theme of what the character did for an interaction, right? For like an obstacle. And like, yeah, you would record your own audio hopefully while you're doing the recording of the character. But then once you have the audio recording of yourself, you could like throw it in Audacity and tweak it so it doesn't even sound like yourself anymore, you know? So I think both projects, you know, whichever way you want to lean towards, will be pretty awesome to be able to then throw back into week 6 and build it out to be a little bit longer of a project. Before we start going over a couple of these things, does anybody have any particular questions? Just checking. I'll let you guys gloss over this for a second. See if you guys have any questions. I'll be back in 1 second. It's kind of dry in here. I'm gonna get some water. No questions yet? Okay. So, yeah, so the only things we really are covering today are going to be where that option is for the scene. And because I'm teaching you guys remotely, I could just open it up and show you, but literally this introduction to scene is a video. You don't even really need the video because it's just literally one button. But rather than me opening it up and showing you, I can just open this video. Or maybe I won't open this video if it's going to be lagging. What is my bandwidth like maxed out here or what? See if I quit something maybe, I don't know. Weird. Weird. close this stuff, I guess.
So very quickly, we're going to talk.
Okay, there it goes. So, just scrubbing through. You know, right now I'm at like 2 minutes and 6 seconds on this video. That's linked on our schedule. Excuse me. There's literally just a screen tab. I'll make this bigger. There's literally just the scene tab that you can go to, like window scene if it's not there. You just at the bottom left, you create a new scene, and voila, you have like a new timeline, right? So in reality, that's the only thing I need to really cover. Unless you guys aren't too familiar with foreground, middle ground, background, I was struggling with this, trying to think of like, is there an effective way to teach this content? And I spoke with a friend of mine, a colleague. He's actually teaching 4 different classes in Buffalo. One of them, funny enough, actually, professor at UB in the art department couldn't get back to teach their painting class in time because of restrictions in China on traveling. So he started filling in, and because they never could show up, because it is really terrible like it is here now, he was able to pick up the painting class. So he's teaching here at UB as well. I asked him like considerations to relate, because you know he teaches painting, to relate foreground, middle ground, background. And he said, unless we're getting into perspective, which I don't think you guys need to, that starts to get into like a mentality of, John Van Houten. Yep. Sue, are you in his class? I don't think we need to be, John's pretty awesome. If we get in perspective, we start to deal with 3D, right? Like trying to map out a 3D space. And that's good and fine. And in reality, we probably should be taking like a week to be doing that exercise. But I'm just trying to uphold the mentality this is a 2D animation class. So trying to keep it simplified for you guys and keeping it, on that singular pane. But we can still break that apart and interject layers over top of one another, right? So I also put a link on here for just like a glimpse at getting that mentality down. Everybody should have this in their mind already, but so down here in assignments on today's schedule, check out some tutorial videos such as this one for, sorry. Did I not link it? I didn't link it. Sorry, I'll have to link this. All I did was search in YouTube, like animation, foreground, middle ground, background, and oh, interesting. Now it's gone. Oh, that's weird. I just put animation after those 3 and it pops up. So this one...
Google Fi, a phone plan by Google. Get better.
Let me just pop this in here real quick for you guys, and then I'll let you know when it's up, and then you guys could refresh your page and you'll have the link. Sorry, I could have swore I put this in. Maybe I put it in on the project assignment page. Where are we? Here we are. So I'll just, so many layers to this, okay. Foreground, middle ground, background. Yeah, Mr. John Van Houten, we are meeting, or we're gonna FaceTime later today to talk about how the online thing's going, to see if we have any suggestions. Okay, I got that saved. So if you guys just refresh the schedule page now, you'll have that link on the foreground, middle ground, background. So on this video here, my YouTube Red trial ended and I'm so aggravated on ads now. I really want to just pay the money, but I really don't want to as well. So this video, it starts out with a woman talking. We scrub past that. Realistically, she's just showing you her process of building out a scene. And she starts out with like a really rough outline. And this is something that I didn't quite tell you guys at the beginning of class. Probably like week 1, or I don't know, probably starting at week 1. When you guys do outlines, what I think is also helpful, what you can kind of see here, is if you use a transparency with your brush layer, that'll help you like see all your lines overlapping one another. You know, and if your brush is in like object drawing mode, so the lines don't blend into one another, that could also be helpful. Because as you'll see later through here, she like grabs different elements and moves them around. If you're in like the shape drawing mode, as you know, when you draw shapes, they're the same color of shape will, you know, lock into the other shapes. So you won't be able to move them around separately. So if you sketch out like this kind of scene in Animate, it can be helpful to be in object drawing mode, use a transparency to your brush. And then also make sure you're working on different layers, right? Like background's one layer, middle ground's another layer. But anyway, what I want us to bring to is, let's see where this is at. Somewhere at the very end here. Yeah, if you guys go to 5 minutes and like 49 seconds or something like that, 5:45, you'll see like a preview of her foreground moving over. And her middle ground moving. So it's not just her foreground moving, it's also, well, she's actually just using a background and a foreground, which is essentially what you guys will be doing, but you also have a third layer of like your character in there somewhere. And again, you guys can choose what layer is what. Maybe your character is in the very far background, you know, for some comedic effect or for some dramatic effect. But that's all I was wanting to show you. Is this already like mess up? Hello? Man, these ads they really kill you on these ads. So the only last thing I wanted to make sure I mention now in anticipation for this is, I guess first thing, make sure everybody is sketching stuff out for your concept, you know, like to build off of your assignment 6. So, you know, kind of thinking, is it going to be before my encounter with an obstacle? Is it going to be a follow-up to my encounter? And then if you are doing this foreground, middle ground, background component where things are going to be moving, one thing you'll have to make sure you do is, let me show you here as an example. Again, so when she goes to play this, right, when this is scaling over and everything's moving, it's because that content is wider than the canvas or the stage, right? So when you're designing this content that's going to be background components, you want to make sure you are using your assignment 6 dimensions of the window as a reference point. and then designing your content that'll be moving, like background moving, that's a little bit wider. So you have like your starting position and your ending position. So if your background is going to be moving fast, obviously you'll have to have like a really super long and narrow scene, right? So as it goes over the whole way, you're not having something blank back there, if I'm relating that correctly, right? Her background isn't moving very much, therefore she doesn't really need a whole lot. So what other things I want to say here? So also your like project 5, 6, whatever, encountering an obstacle, most of you don't already have a background, which is what I was hoping preferably you would avoid. Because now if you do this new background style as your project, like your option 1, you could then say let me go back here. Right, say this is like your background scene, just like hers is, and it's going to be moving across kind of like yours would be. Then you guys, for example, can I zoom in here? Oh no, I don't have it set up. If you were to just take like a small segment of this frame then, right, and zoom into it, you could then use that little component as like the background of your encountering an obstacle, right? Like you could basically be harvesting whatever contents you use here, kind of copying and pasting them in the first scene as a background layer, and then just scaling it or shifting it so we're only looking at a specific spot, right? That way you're maintaining that transition, right? So we could tell we're kind of in the same place. Alternatively, if you wanted to have a character like inside on one of the scenes, and then go to their encountering an obstacle, you could totally do that as well. You just want to make sure you're upholding your color harmony, right? Just so that we have some kind of consistency through that. I think that's really all I wanted to make sure I covered for you guys. And I'll have to just revisit like how long I want this to be. Same thing with if you guys decide to do, I think I mentioned it on the assignment page. If you guys decide to do the character animator, like a facial tracking, if a character says something, ideally you would want to have some kind of backdrop behind him. And so what you could do is just literally go out. Oh, yeah. One other thing I thought about. You can go out and grab any kind of image online to be using as a background, as long as you're like maintaining a clarity, maintaining, I guess, like a theme for your project. So you wouldn't want to have like a realistic, real world background, right? It's not going to be super logical, but maybe some kind of gradient, some kind of pattern with the same colors that you're using. And one simple thing I suggested on the assignment page is that, say if you have a whole background that's just a pattern, right? And it's using like purple and orange, and you use purple and orange for your character. You could take that, bring it into Photoshop real quick, and like blur, like do a radial blur or some kind of weird thing where it no longer is like the main focus. It's just literally a background, right? That maintains your theme. And then you could put that in the first scene and then the second scene. That's if you're doing a character animated face, right? Obviously, if you're putting in work for the character animation, You don't have to do an entire foreground, midground, background. Somebody has a question. Use the script. Yeah. Yeah, essentially I still want you guys to still, if you do assignment option 2, I still want you to embed that before or after. So basically you'd be using the same character as you have in assignment 6. And then that character would be talking. You could spin it off a little bit different way if you really wanted to. Like, I'm not somebody to give you harsh constraints. It's just to make sure you have like a path to kind of execute a good vision. So, for instance, I remember one of you had like a butterfly flying around or something, right? So maybe you could have like the character is a butterfly talking, whatever. And then, because then you see the butterfly in the scene before or after it, you would make that connection. So you could really have any kind of inanimate object even be animated if you wanted to. The whole point here is though that you're combining it with the previous assignment so that once we're done, we can put both these. I haven't done it myself because I haven't done my own project, obviously. Where was it at? For scenes, the way scenes work should just be when you play them back, it should just play scene 1 and then scene 2. So there shouldn't be any like stitching together or anything like that. Just whatever order you put them in is the order they're going to play back. I don't know why that's YouTube's hard to load. Have audio, can use sources for audio. You could use other sources. Yeah, like if you wanted to take a specific chunk of audio, maybe Morgan Freeman is saying something, right? And yeah, you could take any kind of, you're still going to have to mouth the effect, right? Say if you have a rock, right? If a rock on the scene is going to talk, it's going to say something. You're still going to have mouth, eyes, eyebrows, kind of like you think of like something like Family Guy, right? When something is animated out of nowhere. Totally fine. So yeah, if you did want to use a separate voice, that's totally fine. You would have to get an audio segment of exactly what you want us to be hearing, and then you would have to voice that to your camera, right? You'd have to say it back and record the animation. Do they have to talk? Yeah, I think that's the point here, is that you're animating a face, and the mouth is primarily like the biggest expression there, right? Well, eyes are as well, but it's primarily the mouth. Like if you look at the one example, this one example of the character animator, he goes through and just shows like eyes open and eyes closed. That's the only translation between the two. But for the mouth, if you go through, I'm not sure if it's this video, the guy has other videos. Literally all you're going to be doing is searching YouTube. There's a ton of videos for free. For Adobe Character Animator, like getting started or whatever. And the one tutorial, so I don't know if it's this one or the other one that he did, he goes into detail about you're able to upload or go in and change. So the mouth will have a different symbol, like a different drawing per phonetic shape, right? So that way, when your character talks back, man, I've never had pages get killed like this. This is strange. It's probably because my bandwidth is really sucking me dry. I'm on 2 computers and Wi-Fi, so I don't know if that's what's doing it. Maybe I need a new router. Maybe the government will buy me a new router. Yay! No, they won't. The answer is they won't. I forgot what I was doing. This one. Let's pause that. Yeah, I think it's here, starting 8:50 maybe? Yeah, starting at 8:50 on that video I listed on the link. And again, for some reason, I'm not going to be able to play it for some reason. He goes down through, and you'll see a symbol for each different mouth movement. So realistically, if you follow through his tutorial of just like, okay, you go in and edit that symbol in that program file. Man, I wish I just had that open for reference, but you just go in and edit that symbol in that, Photoshop file or Adobe Illustrator file, and change that one phonetic mouth to your own phonetic mouth symbol of your character or whatever. Right. So if it's like a rock moving, then obviously the colors would be different. Some of the expressions would be changing. Yeah. So I hope that answers kind of some of the questions that you guys might be having. In reality, this is really just like you could, do an animation with a background moving over and having a different character, and that could be a project. But I don't want you guys to do that, because stitching these kind of components together will then offer potentially like a nice little piece to put in a portfolio. And I mean, this is a 400 level class. So, for those of you interested in moving forward, obviously, stuff you do in this class is going to be hopefully beneficial towards moving forward, right? So I'm just here to try to help you guys execute some of those goals. So if you guys have questions moving forward on how to do stuff, it's going to be a lot of your own effort at this point, I think, for this semester. I'm gonna be trying to uphold kind of what my expectations are going to be normally, but it's going to be trickier because I'm remote. We're all remote. But in the end, you all came to the class with expectations, and I want you guys to be able to take those away still. So it's just going to be making sure you guys keep up on your own stuff, especially coming up onto the final project time, in a few weeks here, which I do have to double check now that I think about it, making sure the last few weeks schedule wise makes sense. Yeah, the duration limitations on this assignment, to answer Ishween's question, I don't have any right now, so maybe class is about over, but just before you guys leave, I wanted to I'll try to see if I can answer that question real quick. So all I'm basing this off of is what I had you guys do for assignment 6. And I think basically I want you guys to basically replicate what we did for assignment 6 for the timeline duration, like 4 to 6 seconds, 24 frames a second. And again, if you're doing the character tracking, that's its own animation, right? But if you are doing the foreground, midground, background option, obviously that stuff's going to be transitioning, moving different ways, right? Objects floating around, whatever. Your character should ideally be in there in some fashion, somehow. However, you don't need to like do another whole assignment 6 of having your character be animated in a completely different way, right? Because that would take a lot of time. But your character should be doing some kind of movement. If the first scene is your character falling on the ground, maybe the second one is zoomed into his face or on the side of his head or something, and something's moving around, whatever. So I'm letting this kind of be really open for you guys to think creatively what you want to do. But your character should still be reusing the symbols from your character if you're doing the foreground, middle ground, background, and then some slight animation with those. So same thing with if you're doing a character animation, Adobe Character Animator, still want like 4 or 6 seconds of talking, some kind of statement. So cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get going here because my other new class starts as well. Well, actually, I'm staying. Same exact website here. You guys will all be having to hop out. I gotta do a lecture on coding now and start coding, so that's gonna be extremely hard to do. So yeah, again, if you guys have questions, if you guys have any quick questions right now, you could shout them out. Otherwise, just give me a phone call later during my office hours, and we could chat about whatever you guys have questions with. Cool. Thanks, guys. Oh, Peter, you're good. My other class is just leaving. Class is back to back. I was typing on that computer, and that's not the right spot. Morning, dudes. We're just waiting for people to show up. How's everybody doing? Yeah, just we're gonna be talking about interface too, but down at the bottom you'll have options for like turning your microphone on or off. So if you want to chat, you'll have to have it on. Huh. Bummer. The one thing this app doesn't seem to do is keep a log of when people join or leave. It's kind of a bummer. That's all this. That's for my second browse. This is quiz one. Yeah. Okay. Well, I got some people coming. Anybody have a problem getting in here? I had one person from my first class that brought up a strange problem. Well, I don't see any emails from anybody yet, so that's good. Everybody's so quiet. I can hear somebody.
That's me, Peter.
What's going on, Peter?
I'm good. How are you?
I think I'm good. I do have a what do you call it? Yeah, I don't know. A concerning tickle in my throat.
Oh, you do?
That because of this current situation. Well, it started like 2 days ago, just like tickle, and it's just not some. You just overthink things. You're like,
Oh,
you know.
For sure. I mean, I know a couple of people. Me too. Last week, I had like a stuffy nose for like 3 days, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting over that now. It's just like.
Yeah, and I was late last night checking up new information, and stuff is looking like really scary based on numbers. And then I started relating that back to myself, like, oh, like me or my family or anybody thinking about like, oh, we probably will have like a lot of people that will probably die that we know. It's like
But the other thing
terrifying.
is like, we're I mean, most of us are at that age where like it really doesn't matter. Like us having it is, from what I've read, is that people say it's just a common cold. Like, no, it can get really bad. it can get really bad. You're right, but
Yeah, it can get bad. Yeah.
If it enters your lungs, you still have a chance of dying, even if you're under 18. But if it enters through your bloodstream, you could be totally fine and nothing can happen.
Yeah. So it's just a crazy thing. So yeah, I have as of last night, kind of thinking about like, oh, do I want to cough, or is it just like overthinking? And still today, even like I'm a little bit like a cough, like every hour or two, like kind of like, I don't know. So hopefully it's just something else. But
yeah, everybody's on highway.
Yeah, I haven't had oh, that's weird. Something shifted. I haven't had a cold in like 5 years, so I'm sure I'm probably going to be fine, but I'm also like basically trying to lock down myself. The only dilemma that I'm running into is my roommate, my housemate here, my best friend. He's been giving like no cares to this at all, and like I keep, fighting him down to like being more sensical about it. So that's been tricky, but beyond that, weird. I can never make sure I have like the view I want to have. This is weird. Huh. Yeah. So we'll wait a couple more minutes, I think. I'm sure anybody else isn't going to trickle in, and then we'll get going with stuff. My view all of a sudden changed, and it's really kind of bugging me. And the worst part about two computers is always forgetting which mouse and keyboard you have to use. Oh, that makes a good point here.